always enjoy watching your classes. How do you think it went today?
I thought it went well. You know, the kids, they really were following along. They seem, I'm still struggling with my focus students, especially I felt Madison. She seemed very lost, and I don't look at it anymore as she doesn't care. I just know that it's really, really hard for her to be there and take risks, and I'm just really trying to find ways to help, you know, push her and help her to achieve it and maybe get outside of her shell a little bit more.
Yeah, and that was something that you asked me to do, was look at some of the
Yeah.
things that you were concerned about with your focus students. And I did notice that Madison seemed to be a little bit more withdrawn than the other students. When they were broken up into small groups, which I thought was great, because I know that she does feel uncomfortable in large groups, so I thought that was a really good modification to have them work in smaller groups. But I did notice that she was quiet, and I even heard her say, I'm going to be in back. And then I noticed a couple of times that she said, or she wasn't saying anything, but she was watching. And so I think there was probably at least 2 8 counts that I noticed that she just stood there and watched.
Yeah.
So what do you think you could do maybe to encourage her to participate a little bit more?
I'm hoping to keep her more connected to advanced dancer, like a specific dancer, just as, you know, that's her partner, that's who she goes to, that's who she goes across the floor with, someone she can become really comfortable with, because I think when she's comfortable, she learns better. But I also think that when she's watching, I used to feel like it was just her quitting and giving up, and she absorbs a lot of it. Because even her parents say she goes home and she dances around, she practices. So things that she struggles doing in front of a large group, I know that she's trying. And just having her come into my classroom during lunch when it's only a few students in there and having a little bit more one-on-one time is, I think, going to be really important when she comes to office hours.
Yeah.
So.
And then you asked me to look at some of the language that you're using as regard to your focus question, your inquiry question with the anatomy. And I did notice a few times actually that you use some of the. You know, I wrote down that you said, "Can someone point out the Achilles tendon?" And a student pointed it out. And you called on a student asking for the.
Gastrocnemius.
Thank you. And this a student pointed it out. So it really shows that you've been implementing, you know, the language with the students, and not only do they know the terminology, but they know where it is and why it's important to stretch. So that was something that I noticed. So good job doing that. Were there any things that you had to change that you weren't expecting to have to change in the actual lesson?
I didn't get to do as much across the floor, and I even pulled a little bit of conditioning out just to make more time, but I mean, I think some of them would prefer to have spent like almost the whole time in group work. Like they like getting together, like working together, and just trying to delegate the right amount of time for each thing, but also making sure that I warm them up and they're ready to jump and they're being safe. So it's a constant thing that I'm thinking about, and sometimes it's really frustrating, and I feel like I run out of time. And just really being on top of it and mapping out my time and trying to stick with it, but also know that sometimes I do just have to stop class. We need to go back and you know, maybe go back to square one to make sure that they're executing movements correctly and that everyone's being safe. So really time is just always the issue.
Well, and I noticed right in the beginning, one of your students who was supposed to be designated as a lead student. You had a team leader for each one of your groups, and at the very beginning of class, her mom had called and said that she needed to be taken out of class and she was going home. So you had to make a pretty quick adjustment. Who did you choose to take her place?
I have some of the groups had to, so I just pulled one from another and moved it over. And the group's been, the class has been together for a semester now, so they're really getting to know each other. And what's nice about the team leaders is most of them are seniors and a few of them are juniors. Most of them are seniors, actually. So it's an opportunity for the freshman and sophomore to connect to older students. And, you know, they can kind of be mentored, and they develop relationships that they can talk about what's gone, you know, not just in my class, but things in academic classes. And so I like the relationships that they develop. I think it's a good thing. And the most of the seniors, I really do think they kind of come as role models to the younger kids. And I know the students learn from me, but there's something exciting about learning from a peer, you know, and especially one that's a little bit older. So I just adjusted and I moved someone, and they seem to work really well.
Yeah, and I noticed that you did use the video so that you could post
Yeah.
the different groups on the website. And I heard out of, the back, the student came up to you and said, what's Edmodo?
Yeah, not all my students have the one hard thing about Edmodo is they don't have their permission slip in. They can't be on Edmodo.
Oh.
So I've been trying to collect them all, but there's always the stragglers, and without that, they cannot be on it.
Yeah,
so
that's
I'm
a really
pushing.
important piece for them
Yeah,
to
and
see.
it's just it makes their life easier. If they need a rubric, it's there in my library. They can go home. It's really accessible. I mean, I would love for all my students to be perfectly organized, but they forget things, and so to have that information available to be able to work and just go somewhere else and be able to pull up work that they need to do, I think it's extremely important. And a lot of them they're in split families, so to be able to go from house to house but have those resources at both homes, I think is an asset to them. So.
Great. Well, are there any more questions that you have for me about what I saw or what I didn't see?
I mean, I struggle with moving around the class large enough.
That's something I noted, that you move quite, and I noticed that you spend a lot of time correcting students
Yeah.
too. So I think that's really important. And I did notice that you corrected the focus students as well a couple of times. So,
Yeah.
and I noticed that you encouraged them, not only the focus students but all of the students. But yeah, that's one thing I definitely think that you circulate around the room, and you're in the front of the room, you're in the back of the room, so you're accessible to the students at all times.
Good. I think probably one thing I just want to continue to work on is finding just other resources to integrate, maybe not just science, but other subjects into my classroom. Because I think the students are really excited about their training, and then if they can take it and connect it back to their academics, it just, they tie things together and they retain information, and it just makes it exciting to them. So maybe not just stopping with the science of it, but moving into other subject matter.
Math or
Yeah.
English. Yeah. Great.
So,
All right. I really enjoyed it.
thanks.